or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be. And before we start tonight's program, this is a reminder that this episode will address various topics related to addiction. And there will be a reminder about multiple sclerosis, as there always is. These may be sensitive to some of our viewers. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. We remind you to please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor, or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and/or mental health regime. If you're looking for options with respect to mental health, contact SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. The service is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and is a confidential free information service for individuals and family members facing such stressors. Importantly, if you're feeling suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Those resources are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I wouldn't have a disclaimer unless I talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, because it's something I've been dealing with for the last 13 months, but more over the last 11 years, in that multiple sclerosis. The National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world, investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Once again, 1-800-344-4867. Or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. Also, as I did last year, I'll be taking part in the Walk MS 2022 in Media, Pennsylvania on April 23rd. We are raising money for this and the National MS Society through a Venture to a Cure's fundraising page at rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. Once again, rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. Thank you for all of you who have donated money to this amazing organization. It touches me in so many ways, and I appreciate all of you. And before we get to a countdown, let me go to Maine for a second. Tonight's program is going to go over a lot of the concepts and questions that are asked within Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, and Codependents Anonymous. This is a very interactive show tonight. This is very different than what we normally do on a Tuesday, Thursday show. So if you have any questions, by all means, put them in the chat. If you want to join, the link is up here. We already have 2 guests in the room already. We could take up to 2 more as we go through the questions. But this is much a searching for me, as it is a searching for you, as it is a searching for anyone who's watching this program tonight. We are all in this together. And on that, let's begin. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini, a recovering addict of overeating, obesity, compulsive gambling, and alcoholism, and it is an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and also the Adventure to a Cure's fundraising page, as we are live streaming on there for the next couple months as well. That's at rebrand.ly/Adventure to a Cure. We're doing something different tonight. Usually, I have a link like this when we're doing VF Talks and we're having a conversation about anything and everything, but we're having a conversation about something tonight. We're having a conversation about a lot of the things we think about when we realize that there might be a problem. When maybe we've hit our bottom and perhaps we're heading down a road that we really need help. Otherwise, there's a point of no return, quite frankly. So we're going to go through the similarities in the questionnaires that you may find within Overeaters Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, and Codependents Anonymous. We're going to discuss all four almost in the same breath in the same sort of tandem. In order to have that conversation, I'm reaching out to all of you in the chat. I'm also reaching out to those members of this wonderful, incredible community that have joined us in the green room and will be on momentarily to start this conversation. But before I do that, let's see who wins the door prize tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And that's going to go to Laura Williams, who says, hello, friends, with a purple heart, blue heart, red heart, orange heart, a globe, and a peace sign. Hello to you, Laura. Hope you're doing well this evening. We also have Rich Vibes over on YouTube, who says, hey, JV, hey, group. We also have Marilyn on YouTube, who says, hi, everyone, with 3 waves and 3 purple hearts. We have Brad, who says, hey, all, love your faces. We love your face, Brad, and I think we're going to see your face in a couple seconds. We have someone who's mentioning about background noise. If you're having issues with background noise, restart the stream or whatnot. I don't see any other comments about background noise, but if you're having a problem with background noise, please let us know and we'll try to adjust. I see another one. So, Teeter, good evening to you. You hear it too. Let me know if it continues into this conversation. The background noise that you hear now is the folks that are in the green room getting ready. We also have, let's see who else is on. We got Nicole joining us on YouTube, who says, hello, everyone. Hello to you, Nicole. We have Sarah on YouTube, who says, hi, all. Hey, Sarah, hope you're having a great evening. And then and I think that's what we have. And Rich is absolutely right. It's one of my green room guests. And Jamie's here on YouTube, says, all my cool peeps. We got the coolest peep who just put a comment in there by the name of Jamie Rose. Good to see you on YouTube. Good to see you this evening. So that said, let's bring on our guests. And I'm going to unmute them because they're on mute. They're not on mute. Brad, Sheree, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. A wonderful evening to both of you. And I have this in the wrong portion of the... Yeah, that's the beginning. Got that over there. That's great. How are you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic. How are you?
Not bad. Oh, wait, Jeanette over on YouTube says, I feel left out. Jeanette, I hope you're having a great evening. Good night. Good night. Good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. Okay. So you ready to answer some tough questions? Ready to talk about this? I think before we begin, I think maybe a little bit of background. So when we talk about at least my addictions, and we've talked about them for the last, year and a half, almost 2 years now, is it a question of alcoholism, gambling, overeating, codependency? Is it a combination of all of them? What sort of things are you looking for out of tonight's conversation? Or what sort of questions that you basically gravitated to? We'll start with you, Brad.
Can you repeat that one more time?
So the questions that you had to answer in order for you to realize, boy, I need to get some help.
Are you talking last night or like in the very beginning?
Very beginning. I'm going as generic as possible on that question.
Well, one of the first things that brought me to the thought process was the drinking alone. Something I said that I would never do, and then that just became the norm.
Okay. Sheree, same question for you.
Yeah, well, we started doing the questions on the gambling because I was quite interested in that. And again, it was more relevant to me and to be with alcohol.
Okay. So I have the questions for Gamblers Anonymous. We could talk about that. We also have the questions for AA and others. So let's actually go to some level setting real quick here, in a sense that we're talking about gambling, codependency, alcoholism, and overeating. I have graphics and icons and whatnot, but you know what these things are. And then obviously your questions and comments as we go forward on this conversation. Some caveats, and I feel like I need to share these caveats. This is a similar set of caveats that I shared a couple of months back. God, in the sake of this program, means greatest orderly direction. It takes a significant set of moments and a greater power for us to move towards a better place. For me, it is universal. And a serenity prayer, which, as we all know, God grant me a serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. It's something we hold very near and dear to my heart, or our hearts rather, and I have a mug that has it, and I say it and pray it every day. It's basically a cornerstone for what we do here in recovery. So those are some of the caveats, and I share that for anyone else who's watching the show who may have never experienced that before or wanted to know more about how we think and what we need to do to move forward towards a better place. That's some of it right there, without question. There was a question either on Tuesday night show or last week that talked about what the steps are. Those are the steps. And the fact of the matter is they are basically the same steps across the board between Alcoholics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, CoDA. As far as the steps are concerned, what was the one step that you took that made you realize, okay, this is hitting home, this is my path forward? What has this been for you? We'll start with you this time, Sheree.
For me, it was definitely step one, admitting that I couldn't manage or be functioning having alcohol, and then actually accepting it.
Okay. And Brad?
I'm going to say step one, too. There was something specific about it that I argued about in the beginning. I believe the way that I worded it was, I don't think that I'm powerless over the addiction. I think that I'm powerless over my own mindset. And it took, I still randomly have that thought, but in the grand scheme of things, it is powerless over the addiction.
Yeah, I think it was the same sort of thing that I experienced when I was in the middle of Raleigh-Durham Airport in February of 2019, late January of 2019, early February of 2019, when I was at 480 and really was just disintegrating before my very eyes and couldn't walk more than 10 feet. And I realized that I was powerless, absolutely powerless, unless I did something to change it right now. So step one, across the board, without question. Jeanette had a comment in, said, waking up to a fellow addict that was staring at me but didn't respond, she was gone. It's the sort of thing where, and she also says, we use the same drug, just different ways. I think in a nutshell, it is the underarchings of all the things we are dealing with. And then Dennis also has a comment in there that says, in CoDA, I use I statements keeping the focus on myself. In almost all other programs, the members are allowed to use you and we statements. Good to know. Thank you for sharing that, Dennis. Appreciate it. There are some questions about the differences between the 12 steps. So in Overeaters Anonymous, step one is we admitted we were powerless over food, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 12 would be having tried to practice these principles in all of our affairs, we tried to carry this message to other compulsive overeaters. In AA, step 1 would be we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 12 would be having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And then in Gamblers Anonymous, same sort of thing. Step 1 being we admitted we were powerless over gambling, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 12 being having tried to practice these principles in all of our affairs, we tried to carry this message to other compulsive gamblers. And that seems to be the same sort of edict. If I don't have the graphics for CoDA, but it's similar there. And when we talk about the dependency groups like Al-Anon and whatnot, similar language as well. Teeter over on YouTube says, I believe the steps themselves are the same, just different words. Absolutely. Yeah. I think for some of us that are dealing with cross addiction, it has to go to generality for us to battle it the best way we know how. But that's absolutely right, Teeter, for sure. Any questions before we move on to gambling? Because gambling is what brought us to this topic tonight anyway. So we might as well talk about this. And I'll say before we get started that everybody has, or at least I've shared my story as far as gambling and how bad of a massive defeating activity it was for me, as far as how much money I lost doing it and how many things were broken because of it. And as we go through the list, I can guarantee you that the yes/no questions, the number will astound you as far as how many were yeses in that previous state. So before we get there, the signs and symptoms of gambling is being preoccupied with gambling, such as constantly planning how to get more gambling money, needing to gamble with increasing amounts of money to get the same thrill, trying to control, cut back, or stop gambling without success, so on and so forth. You know, it's basically running that over and over and over again, and there's no satiation point. I assume both of you had issues with gambling or have friends who've had issues with gambling. What sort of points in that list have gravitated to you or your friends from what you have seen, what you've experienced? And we'll start with you, Sheree.
Well, when we first started that list yesterday, we really did only get halfway through. But I already got 1 point, not just for myself. But yes, I do have a friend who has multiple addictions, and how we got onto it technically was I raised the question with you because I knew there was multiple addictions for yourself, and it was just a simple question that started the conversation for us. So, there was a comment brought up about we should get a Touch Lotto ticket together, and I just wanted your opinion, being that you were from a similar addiction, if that was, unsafe for her.
Yeah.
And that's how this came about. So, yeah.
Brad, how about you with gambling?
That's a tough one. I mean, when it comes to the gambling, and the only reason it's a tough one is because I haven't really been around many gamblers, and honestly, you are the first one I've ever had an actual conversation with. So I really don't know how to answer that question.
It's a tough question, and I think one of the things we addressed when we were talking about gambling on the episodes previously is the fact that there was this issue as far as how many different places we find gambling advertisements, and it's constantly thrown in our faces to the point where we watch ESPN or whatnot, and they're telling us the betting line for a game. And I'm getting some comments that the audio is really choppy. Let me see if I can move my mic a bit, see if that helps things a bit. Sorry about that, folks. I think it might be on my end this time. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Okay. Yeah, so it's a sort of thing where, yeah, we're thrown it from so many different directions. It's unfathomable. Some comments that came up about the about gambling as we started talking about it. First, an overarching question from Laura: Do you see overlap between these addictions and mental illness? Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we think about codependency, there's definitely mental illness that are playing a fact. One time when we were talking about codependency, we were talking about the Cartman drama triangle and things that are talking to things that have very toxic behaviors for one reason or another. It's not a study in the DSM-5, but it definitely digs in a bit when there's a series of issues with compulsion and mental illness. What's your take on that, Brad, Sherry?
Can you go Sharif first? Because I want to
Sure,
write this down.
absolutely.
I don't
Sherry,
want to lose this one.
mental illness and compulsion and addiction. Sorry.
I can speak from my experience with alcohol. You know, I used alcohol as an escape. I didn't want to deal with the emotions and the stress and the anxiety, so I used it to escape, and it just made it worse.
Mm.
It definitely, you know, and when you're doing the steps, it comes out to you in step 4 that you do have issues and you have to deal with it and you can't run away from it anymore.
Yeah, without a doubt. Brad?
So, yeah, I've spent a lot of time, excuse me, going over with Sean and trying to figure out like where my trauma comes in, you know, for lack of a better word. And a lot of times I don't see like past trauma, but I've been able to narrow it down to one thing. Right after I had my seizure back in like 2014, I spent 2 years unable to work, and that was because I couldn't get a work release from the doctor to go back to work. So I spent 2 years sitting at home, no money, bored, all this. Finally, in 2016, when I moved to Oklahoma, that, how do I want to word it? Like that freedom, you know, from no longer being stuck and just blowing up, that release of the depression, for lack of a better word.
Right.
So a lot of the conversations where I'm trying to figure out where my trauma and, you know, what led me to want to drink the way that I did, it always comes back to that. And that seems to be where I crossed from social drinker to alcoholic.
So it's some sort of dopamine or chemical release or whatever you're doing that gives you that sort of freedom. It's a great word, by the way, freedom. And then that sort of addiction that freedom gives you, that you want more of it. There's no satiation point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the same thing with me with the gambling. That's definitely the same thing with me with the overeating and the drinking as well. There's a lack of a satiation point. No, as they say, no happy medium. There's no happy medium. There's always an extreme, one or the other. There's no middle. There's no middle ground. No satiation point. Some comments that were popping up as we were talking. Jeanette says, my gambling resulted when I was using mainly to try to make money back to put into the wallet I stole out to get my docs, or get my my docs, or my DOCS, right. So one led to the other, which led to the other. That's that cross addiction playing again. Teeter over on YouTube says, I used to be a bad gambler too, payday loans to spend at the casinos, writing hot checks to bingo halls, buying lotto scratch-offs by the pack, spending bill money on gambling. I refer to this as gambling on margin. because this is money we don't have, and we're borrowing more and more money to gamble. And I certainly did that myself. You know, it could be as harmless as going to the ATM to play at the casino or the bingo hall or the local, you know, you're playing pokies if you're in Australia, you know, playing the pokies or whatnot. But it could be as serious as going to the actual cashier and getting a credit card, cash advance, but also setting up a loan with the casino or the gaming hall or what have you. Fortunately, I never did the latter of setting up a line of credit with a casino. I have taken out cash advances, though. That's how bad it was. So gambling on margin's never a good idea, especially when you're doing something that you are mathematically told that you will be losing more times than not, because that's why they're in business. There's a house edge, and usually the house wins. That's why they're in business. Same is true with the lottery, too. And you want to talk about bad house edge? Lottery's classic for that. Couple more comments. Jamie says, your gambling commercials in Pennsylvania are way worse than here in Maine. Yeah, they're horrible here. It is every big market, whether it's Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or even state, you know, even the center of the state, you have inundation of commercial over commercial over commercial in local ad breaks for local casinos or the PA lottery. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. One other comment. Jamie says, my parents used to leave my sister and I home on the weekend to go gamble in hopes that they would win big. Again, more times than not, you're ending up losing and you're going there to win big. And then one more comment from Teeter, who says, oh, and I also got thrown out of the house because my gambling was out of control, so parents threw me out. I'm sorry about that, Teeter. Really am. And Laura says, trying to get my brain chemicals under control. Yeah. I think the look that was over my face when I was gambling $30 a hand, playing high limit video poker, was a glazed look over my face. And enough sort of recall to figure out what cards to hold. But it was just a very dark place. And then just the thrill of just going to the next hand and the next hand and the next hand. It's a horrible feeling that I never want to feel ever again. It is not a great feeling. I was out of my body and out of my mind. And I let the chemical reaction of me playing over and over and over again for hours at a time. Whether it is just to try to get to the next loyalty level or what have you. I never want to be there again. We got my co-host from Friday. Hey, Matt, how are you? He says hello over on YouTube. I hope you're doing well. So let's actually get to the questions that we talk about for Gamblers Anonymous. 20 questions. There is a set number that you would have to say yes before it is a problem. And we will go through it right now. 1. And also, if you're in the chat... And also, Brad, Sheree, if you want to keep track of this as we go through it, you know, and also comment as I ask these questions. Let's do that. 1, did you ever lose time from work or school due to gambling? 2, has gambling ever made your home life unhappy? 3, did gambling affect your reputation? 4, have you ever felt remorse after gambling? 5.
So can
Go
I
ahead.
stop you there?
Yep.
So that's where when we discussed that, I told you that a couple of times, you know, on the rare occasion that I did gamble and I did win, I had that feeling of euphoria, of like, oh wow, oh, you know. But I think what we decided was the difference is I took the money and ran because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go spend this somewhere else rather than putting it back in. But so because I had a feeling and an emotion about it, you've given me 1 point there. Is that right?
That's correct.
Cool. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
That is still the point. You still have a point for that. Brad, what about you?
So yeah, with me, like I said last night, I've never had an issue with gambling. Like I'm looking at these, and I was trying to answer them both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so far, I've got a yes to the first four when it comes to alcohol,
Okay.
but with gambling, they're all a no.
Okay. The questions for AA are similar. It's done in a different light, and I'll actually get to them in about 5-10 minutes. The themes are the same across all four. It's
Yeah,
incredible. 6.
yeah.
The gambling cause a decrease in your ambition or efficiency? And I think I skipped 5. Did you gamble? Did you ever gamble to get money with which to pay debts or otherwise solve financial difficulties? Now I'm going back to numerical order here. 7. After losing, did you feel you must return as soon as possible and win back your losses? That's what we would call us ex-gamblers chasing. Did you ever chase? 8. After a win, did you feel a strong urge to return and win more? There's a qualification to that. I would say within 30 days. And there's a reason why I say within 30 days. Within many state lotteries, including Pennsylvania, there is an opt-in that you can actually opt out for 30 days and put yourself on a cool-off period because you won big. Some casinos have that too. In fact, I believe MGM does too, with a cool-off period. 30 days is that sort of magical number. So, just something to think about. 9. Did you often gamble until all your money was gone? And 10, the last of the first set. Did you ever borrow to finance your gambling? It goes back to on margin, but maybe from a friend or a neighbor or who have you. Personally, with these first 10 questions, I will tell you right now, 1 no, 2 yes, 3 a little, so yes, 4 absolutely, 5 yes, 6 yes, 7 yes, 8 yes, 9 yes, 10 yeah. Some comments before we continue. Jeanette says West Virginia is bad with gambling machines everywhere. Also, down the road is Wheeling Island Casino. These used to be areas 20, 25, 30 years ago where there weren't casinos or gaming halls or whatnot. And within the last 20, 30 years, the states are saying, hey, we need tax money, so let's bring in gambling. And now look at where we are. We have the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with 12 casinos. Now we're going to be 13 soon. And the amount of people that are, either in desperation or looking for programs like 1-800-GAMBLER or whatnot is growing because we keep on inundating people with casinos and gaming choices. And then if that's not enough, there's the online gaming choices. So many online gaming choices on your phone, on a web browser. It's gotten ridiculous. Brad, quick question for you. How many, in the course of a normal hour, how many gambling commercials do you see?
Around here, other than what are they? Like the new MGM Sportsbook.
Yeah.
I see FanDuel.
Yep.
Trying to think. I haven't seen a DraftKings ad in quite some time. I think FanDuel basically kind of took over their ad spots. I don't watch TV, so I'm trying trying to think, like, they're on the radio all the time. Like, we get them on, like, public radio, or, like, just, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We get them as much as you'd get them on TV. The MGM blew up because I guess it's, like, 6 months old. It blew up where I was hearing, 3, going 5 or 6 miles up the road to Walmart, and then on the way back, I would hear 2 or 3.
Yeah. As far as advertising for casinos and gaming in Australia, Sheree, what about you?
Yeah, so say you're watching a program and it's an hour-long program and you've probably got 6 sets of commercial breaks. I would say there's like 3. There's 3 gambling or advertising gambling, We even have like apps here that you can download on your phone now. It's like called Sports Bet, and you can bet against the sports and things. So it's very prominent.
That seems to be an issue in the UK as well. Rich Vibe says there's sports betting too. It's a global thing. And I think as far as the American model, as far as online gaming, I think we're late to the show, but we're basically watching everything else that's been going on around that. Couple more comments before we get to 11 through 20 in this list. Nicole says, good point, JV. I doubt that tax revenue covers the addiction services. No, Harrisburg is doing a very horrible job with that. Jamie says, this is going to sound pathetic, but for a while I was making in-app purchases for games like Bingo Blitz and Candy Crush, but that was a long time ago. So there is something like gaming addiction and playing games that are, that are supposed to be free, but then there are things within the game that you pay for power-ups and whatnot, which is somewhat related, but you don't win anything in return, which, again, you're paying for an advantage. So it goes back to the whole compulsion anyway. Jamie,
good point, Jamie. You're on the ball there, love.
Jamie says, I don't do that anymore, which is great. Nicole says, there is a sports betting ad in every announcer break in baseball, as well as the pre- and post-game shows. It's at least 3 times a game, plus commercials. It's crazy. Nicole, it's beyond crazy. You think about the length of a baseball game, and not to say that anything that the offices of Major League Baseball is trying to do to shrink the size of a game down to 2.5 hours or 2.25 hours, which, by the way, good on you, MLB and MLBPA, for ending the lockout. Awesome. We're going to have baseball this year. That's awesome. Just had to get that out real quick. But yeah, you think about the length of a game, 2.5, 3 hours, and 9-inning game, and you're doing it at the bottom of the 9th and the bottom of the 1st, top of the 2nd, bottom of the 2nd, so on and so forth. And then during each half inning, they slip in a commercial for a sports book or whatnot. It's crazy. Nicole says, but I'm still glad we aren't losing any games. Yeah, well, the season didn't start yet. One more point before I get to the next 10. Jamie says, yes, I was never a severe gambler. Haha, in-app purchases got me nothing. So yeah. So you're throwing money at something where there's no win, but that in itself can be a severe problem. We did an episode on gaming addiction a year and change ago, which I think I should definitely revisit that again at some point. So 11 through 20, which is basically derivatives of the first 10, if you think about it, but we'll go through it. 11, have you ever sold anything to finance gambling? 12, were you reluctant to use gambling money for normal expenditures? 13, did gambling make you careless of the welfare of yourself or your family? 14, did you ever gamble longer than you had planned? 15, have you ever gambled to escape worry, trouble, boredom, loneliness, grief, or loss? 16, have you ever committed or considered committing an illegal act to finance gambling? 17, did gambling cause you to have difficulty in sleeping? 18. Do arguments, disappointments, or frustrations create within you an urge to gamble? 19. Did you ever have an urge to celebrate any good fortune by a few hours of gambling? And 20. Have you ever considered self-destruction or suicide as a result of your gambling? We're going to start with you Brad, on this last 10. So, some shocking questions in there, and drawing the isomorphisms to other addictions. What's your take on this?
Well, I actually got a yes in there. What do I got? 15. I don't know if you would count this, but yeah, I've gone to the casino here over boredom.
Mm-hmm.
See, like I said, like answering these are tough for me because, you know, I don't go that often. But what was the other one? I had a yes, but I didn't mark it. Well, no, I guess that doesn't count. So no, I got a no for all these, except for the one. But I don't know if you would count that for me though. And I basically stopped answering these about the alcohol because you said you were gonna throw those questions out here in a little
separate
bit.
questions on. There's a 12 question
Yeah,
on
so
AA.
I stopped trying to put them together, and I just, you know. So I got a no except for all those. But like I said, I don't know if you could count those for me.
I think this is going to sound really weird for me to say this, but it's got to be something where you feel an urgency to try to fix something. You had to be in like that pre-step one sort of phase saying, oh God, I got to do something. And you go through these questions and say, wow, I have to do something. It's going to be on you to be faithful and honest to the questions and the answers of the 20. Before I get to the shocking disclosure, Cherie, how about you in 11 through 20?
All right. So, yes, I gave myself 1 point for number 14.
Okay.
And 1 point for 15, which I think was the bottom.
Okay.
But I was already at the venue, and so I just said, oh, yeah, I'll have a go. But again, it was very minimal, you know, $10 or $20. That's very minimal for me. I don't like to. I basically only put forward what I'm happy to lose. That's my theory. So I would be a total of 3 for that 20 questions.
So 3 is definitely a safe number. Brad has a very low number as well. Let me go through the last 10 without any surprise by any of you that I know and love. 11, no, I haven't sold anything to finance gambling. 12, was I reluctant to use gambling money for normal expenditures? Fortunately, no. I never used the mortgage money to go gamble. I was always paying the mortgage. I was always paying the utilities. I was always paying the countless number of credit card bills I had. 13, yeah, I think it was part and parcel with me overeating and drinking. So I'll give myself a yes for 13. 14, yeah, there was no time limit for me gambling. And even when I set a time limit of 3 hours, I find ways to get around it and stay for 5, 6, or 7 hours. I think the funny thing is, there used to be, it's still there, I just don't go there. There was a casino on the way down to the airport I fly out of, 45 minutes away. And they had a soda machine. You know, you can get a cup and you fill the soda, and I used to refer to them as free sodas. And I refer to gambling over there as getting free sodas. But at the end of the day, were they free? No, it cost me hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars. But it's funny how we take a term like free soda and liken it to that.
Yeah. So at the poke venues here, they actually bring you free alcoholic drinks when you're sitting there playing the pokies. So of course, I wasn't really that interested in the pokies. I'd just sit there and play very minimal, but I got the free drinks.
Yeah, and free alcohol is common around here too in casinos. Like there was a point in time where me and someone would go to a casino in southeastern Connecticut, and they weren't feeling well. They were dealing with something and they wanted something to do, and we went there to bet on horses. And it was just, for them, it was a chance to drink, and for me, it was a chance to try to win a superfecta. And also drink. But yeah, I think they try to lure you in with free stuff, and then you look at loyalty programs and free rooms and free meals and this and that. It's like, oh, well, they're trying to get you in and then keep you for longer than you need to. 15, yeah, I have gambled to escape worry, trouble, boredom, loneliness, grief, loss. Things that I was shuffling under the rug, and the best way I could deal with it is just by gambling or overeating or drinking. Absolutely. 16, never committed anything illegal. No, one can have a devious mind, but no, never did that. 17, gambling has definitely caused me to not sleep. I got a corollary to that question in the sense that there would be times where I would wake up in the middle of the night and gamble online. So if not for the remorse of a bad gambling experience, to wake up in the middle of the night and to gamble even more, that would be a qualifier for 17. 18, do arguments, disappointments, and frustrations create? Yes. Every time I was feeling bad about myself, or I was having just a bad day, or the things around me or the people around me or the events around me made me feel like crap, the first thing I would want to do is drive over to Valley Forge. And I'm not talking about the national park. I'm talking about a horrible casino that's right next to it. 19. Yeah. I've absolutely had the urge to celebrate good fortune by going and having more of that dopamine drip of gambling. The ding-dings and the whoop-whoops, the clang-clangs, all of that horrible, incessant noise that you hear in the middle of a gaming floor. And 20, consider self-destruction or suicide as a result of your gambling. Not directly, but one can make the argument that me overeating and drinking myself into a 480, nearly 500-pound state is a slow suicide. So that's questionable. I'll give myself a no because it's not a direct sort of I'm looking to kill myself. But yeah. So when you go through the list, the number of yeses I had when I was in the heart of this horrible, horrible compulsion, horrible, horrible addiction, 17. 7. If you answer yes to 7 of those questions, you have a problem. That's according to Gamblers Anonymous. I would dare say 5. 5, and you should at least look into maybe a meeting, or at least talking about it with your therapist. 17, you definitely have a problem. Some questions, any questions from you guys? Any sort of thoughts about the 20 before I go over to the questions that are in the chat? Okay. So, wow, a lot of questions. All right. Jamie says, yes, I was never a severe gambler. Right, that was from last time. And there's no separation there. Jamie says, I used to gamble when I drank, but I went to the casinos for the free drinks, which obviously they weren't free because I was losing money gambling. That's how they get you. Teeter says he thinks he can answer yes to all of those questions. So he scored 20. Teeter also says here in New Mexico, they don't give free liquor, but they will give non-alcoholic drinks. Jamie says, I remember being in Reno and getting free drinks for sure. Yeah. Jamie also says, I also remember being a kid and my parents would lend me to the corner store to buy them scratch tickets and cigarettes. And she continues to say, they said to buy myself a soda in return, and the corner store we lived at sold anything to minors all the time. So it basically can extend itself to horrible, horrible behavior without question. But yes, I had a gambling problem. But every now and then, I like to look at those questions and remind myself of that too. Teeter reminds me I forgot Jamie's question to Brad. Jamie wants to know, did your head get hot?
Yes, absolutely.
I needed that. Absolutely needed it. Jamie says, I know the most important one.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be funny and wear a Christmas hat. And Nicole even called me out. She said, it's not Christmas and it's not football season. And I still kept it on, and that's my karma, right?
Oh, it could be Christmas any day you want. And then you got Jeanette burning you. Saying, with a head like that, #burn.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
So I had a question for you.
Sure.
I don't know if you and I discussed this. We may have. Was your issue like gambling, or was it a specific thing?
Yes.
I mean, like, you would, if you could gamble on it, you would do it, or did you prefer poker, prefer roulette? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before the demyelination, so this goes to the mental illness portion of the program, isn't it? I used to have the brain capacity and the patience to play sit-down poker, whether it is tournament style or cash games or whatnot. And then when I got sick in 2011, I found that I didn't have the sort of ability to do that anymore. Nevertheless, even when I was playing poker, I would still play video poker, and I would still play slot machines, and I would still play blackjack, and I would play craps, and I'd play all of it. But I think moreover when that brain fog started coming in, when I had that demyelination and whatnot, there was a lot more video poker. And, funny enough, blackjack wasn't a problem. Craps wasn't a problem. But I couldn't stand for hours upon hours upon hours on end playing poker like I used to. Which is sad because I really, before I got sick, I could spend hours. But then I also know what that got me. It got me bankrupt, didn't it? Anyhow, yeah, it's if you have a compulsion problem, an addiction problem, that is not something to take up. Not at all. Because even if you go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, one can borrow itself to another, can borrow itself to another, using, the IFS term firefighter. So you're using a firefighter to stop the gap in something, and then, okay, well, you're going to change your firefighter. You're back at it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the reason I thought about it is like, so I asked if you had a gambling issue or if you had a poker issue. And then like for me, when I first started drinking, I had a specific drink. And I would be the kind of person like, I drank a specific beer. And if I walked into a bar and they didn't have it, I would go to a different bar.
Mm.
Like I only drank a specific beer. And then even when I started drinking liquor, I had a specific liquor. If they didn't have it, I wasn't drinking. But then eventually it got to the point where I didn't care what it was. So
Yeah, I totally see that. I totally see that. I think were there some games I'd rather play than others? Yeah, absolutely. But when push came to the shove, I'd play anything. I would, without question. Hold on a second. Problem with drinking a club soda in the middle of a show. Nicole, I'm going to bring this up real quick. Nicole says, so strange to think of getting an autoimmune disorder as a lifesaver. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Nicole. So, bit of a message here as far as gambling outreach. If you think you have a problem and you answered those questions, you answered at least 7 in a yes. There are places you can go for gambling help, to find help and whatnot. 1-800-GAMBLER would be one place to go. You can also call 1-800-522-4700. That is the National Problem Gaming Hotline. You can also go to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration at samhsa.gov, which is at 1-800-662-4357. Again, 1-800-662-4357. And the National Council of Problem Gambling, it can be reached at ncpgambling.org. If you're also having questions about where you can turn locally, there are many state organizations on problem gambling within your state and Commonwealth. Doing a quick search will tell you exactly where to go. We have one in Pennsylvania, but as Nicole alluded to before, and I agree, I don't know much funding is going to that organization right now to help what is becoming a growing problem in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Jamie says, sometimes life-changing disorders can in turn cause a chain of reaction to make positive changes, without a doubt. I think there's also circumstances that we get thrown into, like an audit in the middle of a separation and divorce and other things, that is the sort of universal qualifier to say, okay, you're going to change things now because the ship has definitely gone awry and the train has gone off the tracks, and any other analogy you want to use there. So I guess that's a point for me to go to one of the readings of A Day at a Time, which is the sort of the guidebook for Gamblers Anonymous. And today's passage is Compulsions and Inner Truth. We must be true inside, true to ourselves, before we know a truth that is outside us. We make ourselves true inside by manifesting the truth as we see it, wrote Thomas Merton in No Man is an Island. Since much of my recovery is based on spiritual progress, it is essential that I start by creating within me a small area of absolute truth and love where God can become rooted. As I expand that area of truth and love, God will grow within me. When I came to Gamblers Anonymous, my spiritual life was at an all-time low. At least for today, will I not allow my compulsions to come between me and my inner truth? Today I pray, may I recognize the difference between my feeling today of God within me and the emptiness that existed when I was gambling. Help me understand that only by continuously seeking and facing the truths about myself will my spiritual recovery progress. And today I will remember, truth within lets God come in. And that's today's A Day at a Time. So that's a gambling story. Let's talk about codependency. And we think about codependency as basically being the sort of thing underneath everything, as far as many of us had codependency issues and whatnot, and we think about the sort of things we deal with as far as shuffling things under the rug or putting other people in front of us or other places and other things. Codependency is definitely a major player in all of this, so it'd be remiss not to talk about that for a few minutes. We learned to doubt our own perception, discount our feelings, overlook our needs. We basically played second fiddle to everything else. And the most important person we could take care of is ourselves. We got to make sure our mental and physical health is in the best possible place it can be. When we look to others to tell us what to think and feel and behave and just to live life, what kind of life are we living anyway? Other people supplied us with information about who we were and what we should be instead of us figuring it out for ourselves. It became more important to be compliant or avoidant rather than to be authentic. And then we adopted rigid beliefs about what we should be. We believed that if we could just get it right, things would be okay. If we got it wrong, we lost our sense of security and self-worth evaporated. It basically vanished. And one of the books that I've gravitated to, and I quote from a lot within our recovery Zooms, within Recovering Addict, but also on the show, is Language of Letting Go. An incredible book. And it's basically a cornucopia of other recovery Bibles that are out there based on other groups. And Melody it just does an incredible job of putting it all together. Two important sites you can go to: CoDA.org, which is the site for Codependents Anonymous, and then melodybd.com, both of which are very important as far as the codependency and co-addiction story for sure. So now let's, try to read this very small print and answer the question on whether or not I'm a codependent. And I will try to zoom in so we're not trying to squint. Okay. That better? That's better. Same sort of thing as before. We'll go through this list, and there's a magic number that you want to not be over. So think about this as I go through this list. 1. Are you currently in a relationship with one or more needy people that allow you to take care of them? 2. When another person acts negatively towards you, does it affect you a lot emotionally? 3. When your friend does something negative that directly affects you, do you start taking it personally? 4. When your friend does something that doesn't make a lot of sense to other people, do you try to step in and rescue them? 5. When your friend's mood is bad, does it affect your mood? 6. Do you struggle with perfectionism? 7. Do you worry excessively? 8. Do family members tell you that you do way too much to help someone you know that is addicted to alcohol or drugs, or actually call you codependent? 9. After you compromise and give your friend what he or she wants, do you feel a lot of anger and resentment? 10. Do you spend a significant portion of your time worrying about what your addicted friend or family member should do? 11. Do you always make sure that your needy friend's needs are taken care of and realize that your needs really are never addressed in the relationship? And 12. Do you believe you are totally dedicated to the welfare of the person you know who has the addiction problem? 12 questions. How many yeses do we have? I saw a lot of head nodding from Cherie, so I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, there you go. Isn't that insightful? So I actually gave myself, I've got 6.5. And do you want me to explain why?
Yes, please.
So question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So question 8 I've only given myself a half because I'm sure it was relating into spending time helping others. But to me, that's also my step 12.
Right.
So I feel that's part of my program. So I've only given myself a half for that. Is that
No,
allowed?
I'll definitely, for the sake of, yeah, I can give you a half.
Yeah. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 6.5.
6.5.
Mm.
Brad.
I've got 2 yeses, and I don't know if this counts. I've got 2 maybes.
We'll take them as half, so you got 3.
Okay. I was thinking, if it's a maybe, I should probably just go ahead and say yes, but it's more of I need to think about it, you know? So yeah, I'll
JV
take
should have
3
gave
on
us
that.
homework before we came on. So we're more clear with our answers.
Oh, I don't do show prep anymore. What the heck's wrong with me? The number that we want to try to stay under is 4. Any number that's greater than 4, according to CoDA.org, you should at least invest more time into figuring out what's going on. For me, that number is like 10. Has that number withered down a bit? Yes. I've made walls. But when I was if we're talking about 2019 version of me, oh, it was 10. I was pushing everybody else in front of me.
I was speaking from the present day and what I've learnt in the tools from the big book. Because I discovered I was a big people pleaser, and to me that's very similar to codependency. I've improved somewhat, but I've got a long way to go. And the perfectionism, that's why I loved when I came to the rooms of AA. It was the progression, not perfection, that just went boing, hit me, slapped in the face.
It's always helped when there's a sound effect. I always felt.
Oh, where's Matt when you need him?
Right. Matt, where's the sound effect? Wait, I could do this. Hang on, I got this. There you go. Triangle. There you go. So I think, let's see, a lot of comments as we were going through the questions. Jamie starts off by saying this is a great reflection. Jamie also says, oh, I already know I'm codependent, but I'll take the survey. She ends up saying 10. Nicole says, me too, Jamie. Jeanette says, Teeter and I have to go to work step 4. And then says, great, a good show and insight, JV. You're welcome, Jeanette. Thank you for everybody who's joining us this evening. I appreciate it big time. Teeter says, love y'all. See you tomorrow. Good night, Teeter.
Hey, I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
All right, go ahead. Just don't do a remote cam from there. I don't think YouTube would like that. Jamie says, being aware is the first step. It'll get better. It takes time. It always does. Nicole says, maybe we can work on it together, without letting the other success or failures affecting us. Yeah, that's important. We got to take care of our own ship, take care of our own train on the tracks. Very much so. And help point and call out when we see people doing it out of love and care and just protection, right? That's why we do what we do here. There are more questions, but as far as the questionnaire itself, the first set are the questions we worry about. Here's the peripheral questions towards the end. Looking back at your relationships within the last year, is it true that you can't remember happy moments? Is it difficult to determine how you feel about something and express it? So again, these are corollary questions to the first ones. Do you frequently hear excuses from the other person about fulfilling their own responsibilities? Do you feel that you should be responsible for how others act? Is it difficult for you to say no when another person asks for help? That is a corollary question as well. When you try to change a situation that your friend is involved in, do you feel remorse later? Funny enough how that question just follows from the Gambler's Anonymous sort of questionnaire, doesn't it? Have you ever tried to orchestrate finances? Even tried borrowing money to help someone pay their debts or continue their drug or gambling or what have you problem? Codependency, right? Do you notice that your time is spent more on another person than taking care of your own goals in life? Do you lose time at work due to another person's drug or alcohol problem or gambling problem? Have close friends or family members ask you why you're still friends with another person? Do you have difficulty sleeping due to the problems with another person? Have you ever wondered why you're still having a relationship with a certain friend? And have you ever had a strong feeling that you are or were in a codependent relationship? These questions borrow themselves from the other questionnaires. In this case, it's how we deal with other people's addictions, other people's compulsions. Some thoughts about that, Sherry?
Or other people's selfishness.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming to the program, we learned how selfish we were and how self-centered. But it opens your eyes actually about seeing how selfish the other person is.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Quite deep in thought about that at the moment.
Yeah. These questions, Brad, are basically corollary questions from the original set we showed. And they also have a lot of undertaking to the questions we saw from the Gambler's Anonymous questionnaire, which will be just like the questions we see in the Overeater's Anonymous questionnaire. And I'm getting a bit of feedback on my side here. Thank you. And then also other questionnaires that you may answer to join a recovery group. They have the same form. Are you harming yourself? Are you letting other people drive you? Are you able to sleep at night? You think about those sort of questions, and if you find them to be a problem, well, guess what? You need to go down the road of trying to get help over your compulsion, your behavior. So, some other same. They didn't have any more comments. Let me do this. We'll talk about what Codependence Anonymous is real quick. CoDA itself avoids rigidly defining codependence, and the understanding of codependence with CoDA continues to adapt over time. In 1991, Charles Whitfield published a 38-item Likert type checklist based on the 1989 version of the CoDA pamphlet, What is Codependency?, known as the Codependence Anonymous Checklist. Basically a form of what we just experienced. Some of the examples would be: one, I have difficulty identifying what I'm feeling, or I judge what I think, say, or do harshly as never good enough, or I put aside my own interests in order to do what others want, or I freely offer advice and direction to others without being asked, or I use indirect or evasive communication to avoid conflict or confrontation. CoDA in a nutshell, isn't it? So before we go to the language of letting go, because that'd be the perfect way to sum up the codependence portion of this conversation, any thoughts about these sort of components? We could start. Got a no from Brad. How about you, Sherry?
Yeah, no, I actually had a few of those that I could quite look into a bit deeper. Oh boy.
Jamie says, sometimes I think how many damn programs am I going to need? Like, damn. OA, AA, NA, CoDA, Al Anon.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's all intertwined around 1, 2, or 3 things always. Nicole says, I really wish I knew about the concept of codependency more than just a few months ago. Frown face. And Jamie says, yeah, I don't realize what was until after I got sober too. It hit me like a brick. Our alcoholism or lack of sobriety masked a lot of these sort of deep-rooted feelings. It goes back to a lot of the things that we were shuffling underneath the rug or throwing people in front, or throwing people, places, and things in front of. And on that, let's do language of letting go. An anonymous person said, I was 46 years old before I finally admitted to myself and someone else that my grandfather always managed to make me feel guilty, angry, and controlled. We may love and care about our family very much. Family members may love and care about us, but interacting with some members may be a real trigger to our codependency, sometimes to a deep abyss of shame, rage, anger, guilt, and helplessness. It can be difficult to achieve detachment or an emotional level with certain family members. It can be difficult to separate their issues from ours. It can be difficult to own our own power. Difficult, but not impossible. The first step is awareness and acceptance. Simple acknowledgement, without guilt, of our feelings and our thoughts. We don't have to blame our family members. We don't have to blame or shame ourselves. Acceptance is the goal. Acceptance and freedom to choose what we want and need to do to take care of ourselves with that person. We become free of the patterns of the past. We are recovering. Progress is the goal. As we always say, progress, not perfection, right? Some of us say progress and patience, not perfection. Today, higher power, help me be patient with myself as I learn how to apply recovery behaviors with family members. Help me strive today for awareness and acceptance. And that's today's language of letting go. Thoughts?
I'm really digging this language of letting go. It really resonates with me.
Yes, I'm real glad, John, that you brought that into my life.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's an amazing book, both the book and the journal. So the entries we get for every day is from the journal. And there's 2 versions of the journal. There's one set of 365, and then there's another set of 365. It's just a lot of great stuff in there. And it's just elements taken from all the books that we've gravitated to in recovery and put together with such great mindset, but also that hallmark of, well, holy crap, we may be codependent. And it's amazing how times more than not, we are absolutely codependent. As you saw the chat in here, the number of yeses as we were going through that list. We are definitely codependent, without question. Jamie says, the patterns just hit me right in the gut because I think of how I have been living for so damn long. And Jamie says, yeah, I agree, Cherie. I bookmarked that Hazelden website to read daily. It's a great website, and it has not only that book, but 6 others that you can read. And good night, Rich. Rich saying, I need to get some sleep. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Love y'all. Love you, Rich. Have a great night. Or good morning over there, for sure. All right. So we talked about gambling. We talked about codependency. We might as well talk about AA for a second or two. reminder about Alcoholics Anonymous. AA is an international mutual aid fellowship dedicated to abstinence-based recovery through 12 steps. There are 12 traditions. AA and autonomous AA groups are self-supporting through the strict voluntary donations for members only. As of 2020, having spread to diverse cultures, including geopolitical areas normally resistant to grassroots movements, AA established its worldwide membership to be over 2 million, with 75% of those in the United States and Canada. And that's from Wiki, as far as Alcoholics Anonymous. Nicole's letting us know that Hazelden also has some helpful apps as well. In fact, I will share with you the Hazelden website on tomorrow nights. I know it's a conversation about anything and everything, but I'll mention the Hazelden website and also put it in the description for tonight's show so you can look at it. So, surprise, there's a list of questions for AA. So let's talk about that. This is from
Does anybody notice that the sound's improved since Tita left? Oh, I'm being naughty now. I'm being cheeky.
Oh,
sorry.
it's perfectly fine. 12 questions on whether or not is AA for you. 1. Have you ever decided to stop drinking for a week or so, but only lasted a couple days? 2. Do you wish people would mind their own business about your drinking? Stop telling you what to do. 3. Have you ever switched from one kind of drink to another in the hope that this would keep you from getting drunk? 4. Have you had to have a drink upon awakening during the past year? The past year. 5. Do you envy people who can drink without getting into trouble? 6. Have you had problems connected with drinking during the past year? 7. Has your drinking caused trouble at home? 8. Do you ever try to get extra drinks at a party because you do not get enough? 9. Do you tell yourself you can stop drinking anytime you want to, even though you keep getting drunk when you don't mean to? 10. Have you missed days of work or school because of drinking? See, now that's 3 questionnaires where that question about work or school has popped up. 11. Do you have blackouts? And 12. Have you ever felt that your life would be better if you did not drink? Tally up your scores. Let us know in the comments.
I'm excited. I only got 10. But that's only because I've been sober for 3 years, and 2 of the questions had in the last 12 months, so I got off the hook for them too.
10 out of 12. Okay. Progress, not perfection. Brad, what say you?
I got 10.
10. Guess what?
Guess what? We're equal.
Jamie says 10 as well. And guess what with me? 10. 4 10s. 4 10s. Jamie says only on account because of being sober for almost 2 years. Haha. Well, that would do it, wouldn't it? That would definitely do it. Here's the funny thing about question 8. The extra drinks at a party because you do not get enough. Not only at a party, but also at business functions. You're out basically wining and dining, or being wine and dined by a vendor, and they have the drinks and you have a drink, and all of a sudden someone can't finish a drink. Hey, give it to John. He can finish it. That was that guy. So it's like, man. Couple comments. Nicole says, if only it were the Olympics. Yes. Winter or summer. I think it applies to both. And then Jamie says, haha, Rollo, for real. Gold medal. Hee hee. Got 7 or 8 gold medals. Jamie also says, used to get pissed when I saw someone didn't finish their drink or they only had one would nurse a drink for hours. Like it was a giant cop-out.
Yes, I really relate to that. It's like, what is wrong with them? They're the abnormal person. But it was really me all along. It wasn't normal.
The skull. Perfect 10. Perfect 10. Including the East German judge gave you a 10 on that as well. Brad, what about you on this list of 12?
I got 10 as well.
10, 10. 10's all over the place. Right? You might have said that before.
Weirdly, the 2 I said no on. I've never been I don't even know what you'd call it. I've never been like a wake and bake person. Hair of the
like
dog
shake and
doesn't
bake?
work for me. Yeah, hair of the dog doesn't work for me. I gotta suck it up and go through that. Well, most of the time when I wake up, I was still drunk, so it never got to the hangover point because I never really sobered up. And then the other one was I was always at work. I never called off hungover. And then, like I just said, because I never got hungover because I just stayed drunk. But yeah, everything else. Yep.
Yeah,
same. I never called off work being drunk. I just went in hungover. But in saying that, the times that I was hospitalized, I had to not go to work. And one of those times I was off work for actually 7 days. So, I didn't really have a choice.
The night I was with a vendor, this is a long time ago, and I ended up finishing other people's drinks. I had to go to an 8 o'clock meeting with everybody the next morning. And it's after having a reversal of fortune at a fancy New York hotel, which I don't think I'm allowed back ever again. And I vowed to myself that'd be the last time I'd do that. But there were a few more times where I got myself that drunk. And certainly the last night I got drunk, May 30th of 2019. So. Nicole says, seems we are all functional addicts. And Brad, you said, yes, Nicole, we are. We absolutely are functional addicts. So, that said, let's talk 24 hours a day then. Because we talked about language of letting go. And we talked about the other one. Wow, it's been a long day. Let's talk about this real quick. Our faith and our senses is the topic of today's 24 hours a day. We also strengthen, so the thought of the day is we also strengthen our faith by working with other alcoholics and finding that we can do nothing ourselves to help them, except to tell them our own story of how we found the way out. If the other person is helped, it's by the grace of God and not by what we do or say. Our own faith is strengthened when we see another alcoholic find sobriety by turning to God. And finally, we strengthen our faith by having quiet times every morning. Do I ask God this quiet time for the strength to stay sober this day? The meditation for today is this. My 5 senses are my means of communication with the material world. They are the links between my physical life and the material manifestations around me. But I must sever all connections with the material world when I wish to hold communion with the Great Spirit of the universe. I have to hush my mind and bid all my senses be still before I can become attuned to receive the music of the heavenly spheres. And the prayer for today is this. I pray that I may get my spirit in tune with the spirit of the universe. I pray that through faith and communion with Him, I may receive the strength I need. And that is today's 24 hours a day.
That was very nice. Thank you, JB.
You're welcome. And I think we talked about the gambling. We talked about the codependency. We talked about alcohol. Let's talk about overeating. We'll save the best for last. Before we move on, Nicole says she likes that prayer a lot. Thank you, Nicole. Some notes about OA. 12-step program founded in 1960 for people with problems related to food, including but not limited to compulsive overeaters, those with binge eating disorders, bulimics, and anorexics. Anyone with a problematic relationship with food is welcomed. OA's third tradition states that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop eating compulsively. OA was founded by Roseanne S. and two other women in January of 1960. The organization's headquarters, or World Service Office, is located in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. OA estimates its membership is at over 60,000 people in about 6,500 groups meeting in over 75 countries. OA has developed its own literature specifically for those who eat compulsively, but also uses the AA books, AA's 12 steps and 12 traditions, because there's a high correlation between the two concepts. The first step of OA begins with the admission of powerlessness over food. The next 11 steps are intended to bring members physically, emotionally, and spiritually healing. Ready for some questions? I am. 15 questions on whether or not you're a compulsive overeater. And I'm going to shrink this back down a bit so I could see the words, because some of the words are getting cut off. 15 questions. Are you a compulsive overeater? 1. Do I eat when I'm not hungry or not eat when my body needs nourishment? 2. Do I go on eating binges for no apparent reason, sometimes eating until I'm stuffed or even feel sick? 3. Do I have feelings of guilt, shame, or embarrassment about my weight or the way I eat? 4. Do I eat sensibly in front of others and then make up for do I eat sensibly in front of others and then make up for it when I'm alone? It's a closet eating, pretty much. 5. Is my eating affecting my health or the way I live my life? 6. When my emotions are intense, whether positive or negative, do I find myself reaching for food? 7. Do my eating behaviors make me or others feel unhappy? 8. Have I ever used laxatives, vomiting, diuretics, excessive exercise, diet pills, shots, or other medical interventions, including surgery, to try to control my weight? 9. Do I fast or severely restrict my food intake to control my weight? 10. Do I fantasize about how much better life would be if I were a different size or weight? 11. Do I need to chew or have something in my mouth all the time? Food, gum, mints, candies, or beverages? 12. Have I eaten food that is burned, frozen, or spoiled from containers in the grocery store or out of the garbage? In other words, do I eat food out of the garbage? 13. Are there certain foods I can't stop eating after having the first bite? 14. Have I lost weight with a diet or quote-unquote period of control only to be followed by bouts of uncontrolled eating and or weight gain? And 15. Do I spend too much time thinking about food, arguing with myself about whether or what to eat, or planning the next diet or exercise cure, or counting calories? And this is, by the way, from oabaltimore.org. They have a page called About OA. There is hope. It's a shocking set of questions because even those that have been over the hump, so to speak, still answer yes to these questions. And it is a long step and a long process to work past this. The number of yes answers that you'll find across a bevy of people is going to be a large number because we have a very unhealthy relationship with food in this country and, quite frankly, in this world. But these are things we need to think about. And the more yeses we have in this list, the more we should be aware of them. There is no magic bullet. There is no panacea to all of this. But if we start mindfully eating or mindfully existing, that's one step in the right direction. Some quick comments before we go to your comments. Jamie says, ugh, here we go. And love to Jamie. And Jamie says 12. Jamie, actually, my answer is actually 13. And this is someone who's lost 300 plus pounds. My answer is still 13. And that's why I'm really trying to stay on top of my mindfulness when I eat. Let's go to you, Brad and Sherry. What do you think about this list?
Well, I was very surprised. I got 8.5. But I'm on the other end. So you know how you said, can you say question 2 again as an example?
Do I go on eating binges for no apparent reason, sometimes eating until I'm stuffed or even feel sick?
Yeah, so I go the opposite scale. I can go 2 days without eating. But I gave myself a point for that because it's the opposite.
Well, I mean, you can also use that under the guise of intermittent fasting, though, too. So intermittent fasting wouldn't be a violation of 2.
No, but I know I have a problem with eating. So I have had anorexia. So that's why I was looking at it from my angle and my sorted, relationship with food.
Brad, what about you?
8.5, yeah.
8.5 for Cherie. Brad?
I got 2, I think.
Okay.
But mine aren't really from the eating. So one reason I said 2, I think, I don't eat a lot. Like, I know my weight gain is from a lack of eating. So my body just stores up fat. You know, it's not, I'm pretty sure, like, if I would just eat, 2 or 3 meals a day, I'd be fine. I just don't eat. Like, I could go 2 or 3 days without eating just because I'm not hungry. And then my other yes was, I wouldn't call it guilt or shame, but, I put on all this weight, in the past 2 years. So I'd maybe call it embarrassment, So those are my 2 yeses.
Question, Brad?
Yeah.
So when you were drinking,
I would drunk eat. Yeah. Like at the end of my night, yeah. I eat.
Okay, so I didn't want to eat. That would soak up the
But I mean, I get hungry. So that's, I don't know. Yeah, so that's about it.
Yeah, so with me, I think I never eat food out of the garbage. That's certainly something I haven't done. 14 definitely something that's happened to me 3 times. Lost 200 plus pounds 3 times just to gain it back. 7 used to be true. I had friends who questioned the amount of sushi I would eat at a sushi restaurant. I remember one person that used to be a very dear friend of mine that I'm no longer friends with for one reason or another that I'm sure I'll talk about somewhere down the road. But yeah, there's still some elements of this list that resonate. I've gotten better about a lot of this, but the memories of the past still are there. I don't dwell upon them, but I learn from them for sure. Some comments. Jamie says, time for more mindful eating and actually portioning rather. I've only just started facing this, tired of being sick and then being afraid to eat. Nicole says you can heal too. Yeah, we're all trying to heal. Thank you for sharing that. Jamie says, yeah, I can with a heart. That's why I'm being more vocal, because I'm only as sick as my secrets and I need to keep calling them out. We have to be transparent. We can't let everything in. The more that we make things complicated for ourselves, the worse that baggage underneath the carpet becomes. And we end up throwing so many more things out of our way instead of taking care of ourselves, which is the first thing and most important thing we need to do. Jamie says, I have great people in my life now, like you guys and others, to help me and support me. Jamie, we love you. Big time. And Jamie's never eaten food out of the garbage. That's good. And yeah, Jamie said nine used to be a yes for her. So nine yeses previously. Nicole's proud of being willing to work at it. And Jamie says, thank you. I got you too. Always here to help. And Brad, if you want to say the comment you just typed.
I just agreed with Nicole about we got you. And I said that I'm really proud of you, Jamie, for opening up about it, even the little bit you did with me on the phone the other day. And then I said, heart your face.
We do love your face. We love your face a lot. We love all your faces here. Got some really great faces and really great people and really caring people. Love you all, for sure. So,
I really appreciate you, buddy.
I appreciate you, Brad, and I appreciate you, Sherry. Big time.
I'm real glad that you and I have been talking more. Ever Likewise. Since our brain did that clicky thing a couple weeks ago, I really enjoyed our friendship.
We've always been friends. We're just working together more, which is awesome. I like it. We should work together more often. So we would be remiss not to have this chapter ending without. Oh, I can't even talk straight. Have I been on for 9 hours? Anyone want to tell me? Okay. We'd be remiss not to finish. Yes.
And the venture for the family and Brad. I have to go. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I 9 hours. I understand. I totally get it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing this with me tonight, Sheree. I'm glad I popped back in the chat and you and I could debate this. Love you, Sheree.
Yeah, it was really good. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely, Sherry. You have a wonderful day. You take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you later. I love you, Sherry. Take care.
Love you guys. Bye.
Sherry, ladies and gentlemen. So, some food for thought. Something we normally don't do in the groups, but we could do this tonight because we're talking about it. Food for Thought is a book that's used by Overeaters Anonymous. It's another book, sort of guidebook. It's Daily Meditations for Overeaters by Elizabeth L. And today's passage is on fellowship. Compulsive overeating is a lonely activity. The more we eat, the more we isolate ourselves from other people, and the more alienated and different we feel. We need people. The more we eat, is the more we isolate ourselves from other people and the more alienated and different we feel. We need people, but we do not like ourselves, and we fear that others will reject us. What a relief to find a group of other people with the same problems and feelings. We are accepted, understood, and loved. We find that we are not so different after all. The OA fellowship exudes a sense of warmth and support. It is a safe place to put aside masks and express honest feelings. There is healing and strength. Meetings and retreats have given many of us a deeper understanding and experience of belonging than we have found anywhere else. We are all accepted as we are and where we are in our personal development. No one tells us what to do in OA. Through the fellowship, we learn what has worked for others, and we find relief from our loneliness. Bless our fellowship, Lord. And that's today's food for thought. Some other comments here. Jamie, I got you too. Always here to help. I read that before. Jamie says, thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Love you guys. Mucho. Love you too, Mucho. Thank you all for your openness and honesty tonight. Without question, our pleasure. I know I could share anything with you guys, especially on these shows, whether it is the serious topics of Tuesday and Thursday, and also the fun and frivolity that we have on Fridays. I just love this group so much. Jamie also says, good night, Shuri. I love you. Nicole also says, good night, Shuri. And I love you as well. Brad, any thoughts about the fellowship?
No, actually, I was kind of going off on like a mental tangent. I was just, I was really rethinking about how all of these are different, but the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the one? The gamblers, the reading that you've been doing.
Yeah.
It's really been like hitting home with me. For some reason, just like 4 or 5 times over the past week, it just, I don't know, there's something about the wordings or the triggers that are mentioned in the readings that they're sticking out to me. And it goes to show, like, you know, we're all different, but we're all so much the same.
Yeah, without question. Without question. I mean,
and then, like I said, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's shocking how many of those same themes are in all those questions.
Yeah. It just, like I said yesterday, about, you know, makes me wonder about the friends that I've passed on in my life because I was so much better than them, you know. And Nicole, that's a comment about you. I mentioned last night about how I thought that I was, you know, so much better than people doing meth or heroin, and you know, and then I met you, one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. But I wonder how many people I passed on, you know, just because of my prejudice.
We can't be soaked with the past. We just learn from it. If we dwell upon it, we're just shooting ourselves. The best thing we could do is take the lessons from the past and be great for this moment. Tomorrow's no guarantee, but we have right now. We have the present. Nicole with hearts. Hearts right back at you, Nicole. Hearts for all of you. I love all of you. Big time. Brad, any final questions or comments before I put a giant bow on this or talk about what's going to happen tomorrow and next week and all that stuff?
I got nothing. I just wrote down, though, mixing all these makes a great message.
Without a
doubt. Like I said, I really like how you have incorporated all these, and I'm liking how, you know, Teeter's picking up on that too. Like, he jumped right into, you know, reading all these JV things and just making the meeting like a conglomerate of anonymous, you know.
It's been really refreshing to see him take this on and do such a really good job doing it. And I'm very proud of him, but I'm also very proud of all of you. I think as we are near the 2-hour point, I'm going to put a giant bow on this and talk about what's going on tomorrow and next week. Brad, thank you for joining me tonight. Cherie, thank you for joining me tonight. You guys are fantastic, and I love both of you big time. I'm going to go to main. I'm going to disconnect you, Brad. Thank you again, man. Appreciate it. And he dances himself off. That's awesome. Good night. All right. So let's talk about what's next. In the sense that tomorrow we're going to have VF Talks, a conversation about anything and everything with Matt Haas, who was here earlier in the evening, and Paul Burke, and all of you. This incredible community where usually the train goes off the tracks, and it's a good time doing it, and I look forward to it every Friday night. It'll be tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Next week, we're going to talk about connection. Kind of drawn tonight from how everybody got together on these really tough questions, but we're going to talk about how important connection is on the two various topics next week. It's very important. It is the hallmark of what we do in these groups. And I think it's time to talk about it and talk about, one, how great it is, but two, how important it is for us to maintain that for sure. Some final comments. Jamie says, in order to do better, you must know better, and now you can do better. Nicole says, but you are good. I'm the best. Nicole, you are incredible. And Nicole says, you don't miss me, and I'm thankful for that too. I agree with Jamie wholeheartedly. You are great, Rollo. Jamie says, good job, Brad. Great show, JB. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you very much. And Brad, thank you for being on tonight. He says, love you guys. And tomorrow is Teeter's 2-year birthday. 2 years sober. Teeter, love you, man. Thank you for contributing before in the show. Nicole says, this was a very insightful and helpful conversation. Nicole also says, thank you for these, John, anytime. Jamie says, awesome for Teets. Couldn't agree more. Nicole says, great guest as well. Thank you, Brad and Cherie. Thank you both, Nicole says as well. And Brad says, I love the questions from John and the feedback all night from Nicole and Jamie. I love you all. I love you, Brad. I love all of you. And Nicole says, amazing teeter time indeed. It is an amazing teeter time tomorrow with the 2 years. Congratulations, man. But I'm going to say the same thing I say at the end of every Venture Forward in VF Talks. Stay safe. Stay sane. Stay strong. Stay sober. You're worth it. We'll see you tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific for VF Talks. Have a wonderful night. I love you all. Fly be free. Bye.